Shopify stock, SHOP, has been on a monster run, going up several thousand% in just the last few years. And folks are wondering, can this 10x again, let's say over this next decade? I think Shopify, SHOP, is an unrivaled company. The challenge is that everyone knows it, and the price is getting pretty expensive. So they're going to be having to work through that valuation premium in the years ahead. That said, it could still deliver a satisfactory return over a multi-year period, thinking 5 to 10 years out potentially as you think about this. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Daniel. You're watching Unrivaled Investing. Today we're talking about Shopify. I'm going to walk through the business model. I'm going to say, yeah, this is a very expensive company. It could still deliver potentially an adequate return, let's say over a 10-year period, but it's still going to need to deliver excellent execution to really satisfy investors. And I would say, investors, you better buckle up, because you might see a bumpy ride given how full their valuation is. Let's dive right in to understand, what do they do and what makes them unrivaled. That's the goal with this channel, is to try to find potentially unrivaled companies. I think everything about Shopify is showing, yes, this is checking out. And so, here it is. You have this incredible platform where they're enabling merchants around the world, millions of merchants, to meet their end customers where they're at, whether or not it's setting up your own online store, to setting up a brick and mortar shop, whether or not it's a point of sale that Shopify provides, selling on Amazon, selling on Facebook, selling on TikTok, having a pop-up store, all these different solutions. And it's not only helping them sell where they're at, but it's giving them the tools they need, whether or not it's helping. And this is where they originally started off, with managing the inventory and fulfillment and order management. You think about all these different tools that go along with running a business: shipping, analytics, marketing, and then, there's a whole bunch of different things you might need running your business. There's a whole apps marketplace that you see powered by Shopify that might address these individual needs that Shopify itself hasn't built out. This is part of their partner ecosystem. Capital, let's say Shopify says, hey, we see your business is growing. Let's help you step up your game. We can see the revenue that's coming through. Let's provide better financing than what you can get with the banks, payments. And so you start thinking, okay, so what makes us unrivaled? What are sort of the clues? And first of all, this business has quickly taken share. When you're looking at the percentage of US retail e-commerce sales, Shopify, effectively what they're powering is about 10% of US retail sales, effectively up from negligible, let's say, about 10 years ago. So this is significant share capture. Another aspect that makes them potentially unrivaled is this bigger network of ecosystem partners and apps. And these apps can enable anything from like fraud detection for a sale or price management, all these sort of niche verticals that can help enable merchants that Shopify may not offer. Think of this as like the Apple App Store, except instead of an app that's a cool game, you're doing apps for the end merchants that enable their business to really kick it up the next level. Sometimes very specific things like, hey, fraud detection or subscription services. And another key clue that this company, Shopify, is unrivaled is you look at a company, one of their competitors, BigCommerce 2020, 36% revenue growth, 152 million in revenue. You look at that and you're looking at faster and bigger growth when you look at Shopify, doing $3 billion in revenue, 86% growth. So compare that to 152 million and 36% growth. So they are rapidly gobbling up the pie, taking market share. And it's a huge addressable market when you look at it. They talk about how the market for just the small and medium businesses is $150 billion plus. But that's not all. It's not just small and medium businesses that are using Shopify. You look at some of these major brands on here like General Mills or Staples or Heinz. These are real companies signing on saying, hey, this is a experience that you make this so much better than if we wanted to try this, build this ourselves. Why recreate the wheel? Even Netflix has a Shopify store for selling Netflix related merchandise. And so they are constantly innovating. And this is what I like to see when I'm looking at potential multi-baggers, because it suggests there's real optionality over time. And they talk about, this is where we are in the core, and their core is growing real nicely, but they have so many different logs in the fire that can really get significant growth in the future, such as, international expansion, retail point of sale, so physical sales. Then talk about high-tech, fulfillment solutions, or let's say a payment card, Shopify Balance, or the Shopify app, which is sort of meeting customers where they are in terms of maybe shopping using the Shop app saying like, okay, what are some cool things that I could look for that I might want to buy, in lieu of going to Amazon.com. Maybe you go to Shop and check out the Shop app. So what about this valuation, and can this 10x from here? I'm going to do a quick plug, if you will. Or once again, my name is Daniel. You're watching Unrivaled Investing. If you enjoy learning about potential multi-baggers, please make a point of hitting that subscribe button. If you're already a subscriber, I do appreciate that thumbs up. If you want to follow my personal journey as I try to find these potential multi-baggers, go to unrivaledinvesting.com. First week of the month, I call out my full portfolio. By the end of the month, I call out a potential multi-bagger. I also have weekly updates, talk about what am I buying and selling, what do I think of the market, if there's anything sort of jumping off the page. And we do have this exclusive community on Discord server where I'm interacting with the Unrivaled Nation on a daily basis. Let's get right back into understanding Shopify. And so when I think about this, like, could it 10x from here? And that's what's gotten some investors excited, seeing not only the 1,000%, many 1,000% rally over the last few years. They're saying, hey, could this do it again, another 1,000%? And one needs to understand, okay, so let's first do a quick Rorschach test, seeing the valuation. I'm looking at valuation expansion of 2 to 5x pre-COVID. So that is worthwhile to understand, where previously it was anywhere from, let's say, 6 to 8 to 16 times sales, and then now it's closer to 50 times sales. So you're seeing this huge pre-COVID multiple expansion, as you're looking at this, about a low of 8 times sales. So that is worth understanding. Like, yeah, there's a lot of, I don't want to say froth, but what I am going to say is this reflects how investors know this is a great business. And the challenge with investing is that it's you have to factor in not only the caliber of business, but you also have to factor in the valuation, because those two can be, sort of competing forces, where the valuation can reset while fundamentals deliver, and that could lead to suboptimal returns. And so let's understand the Shopify business model, or at least what's driving their business. And there's really two key different drivers. You see merchant solutions and you see subscription solutions. So subscription, that's about 30% of their business. The subscription, is about 30%. The merchant solutions are about 70% of their business. And as you look at subscriptions, that's really driven off of the number of merchants and the plan value. And you can see the different types of plans that merchants can sign up for depending on their needs, how complex they are, how big the brands are. And they're paying anywhere from $2,000 a month to $30 a month. This is a really juicy, lucrative business, this subscription business, representing over 80% gross margins. This is the software-like margins that's going to get investors to say, hey, this could trickle down to 50% operating margins in the future when you see something like this. The challenge is that you also have merchant solutions, but that's the majority of their revenue, something like 70% of their revenue. That has much lower gross margins, closer to 45%. This is primarily tied to their payment processing, effectively enabling merchants to easily accept payments. And so all the fees tied to doing payment processing, but it also includes, let's say, Shopify Capital, installments, the App Store, dealing with fulfillment. So you're looking at much lower margin picture here, 45% gross margin, literally less, about half of the margin that you see, the gross margin profile that you see with their subscription solution. So blended, you're looking around, mid 50s gross margin. So that is a key component you need to think about in terms of what could their operating profits look like in the future. As I look at this business model and I'm thinking about, what could this valuation do in the years ahead, let's first, before thinking about could this 10x in 10 years, let's first think about the next 5 years. I always like to think about things over a 5-year time frame. And currently looking at a price just shy of $1,600 a share, you're looking at a business that's just shy of $200 billion market cap. I'm looking at this thing, they're delivering, on path, maybe they deliver 70 to 80% growth this year. They grew about 85% top line last year. I'm assuming profit margins at maturity of somewhere between 25 and 35%. That's sort of getting to about half of the current gross margins of around 50%, saying, hey, you have to pay for R&D, sales and marketing, G&A. So that all triggers down to 25 to 35% operating profit margins. And I welcome your feedback in the comments below. If you're like, Daniel, you're being way too conservative here or way too aggressive, love to hear your thoughts. Then what's the ensuing growth rate beyond 2021? What's the growth rate 4 years out? Let's say compounding anywhere between 40 and 60% annualized. That is you're talking about best of the best business models that can grow at these clips for years. So you're automatically assuming really incredible results, 40 to 60% annualized growth beyond this next year. And then an N multiple 5 years out, somewhere between 30 and 40 times earnings. So then the question is like, okay, Daniel, am I being too conservative in terms of that N multiple? So leave a comment below if you think I am. In this case, when I'm looking at this 30 to 40 times, you really need to have incredible execution and a lofty valuation to really get a crazy return over the next 5 years. If you assume a more down-to-earth range of N multiples and what I'd argue is fairly aggressive or reasonable growth of 40 to 60%, you're not penciling out this crazy return. And that's the reason why I like doing this sort of hypothetical risk reward, is I'm sort of saying, what am I playing for here? What's the upside potential that I'm playing for here? And doing this, unless you get even loftier valuation expansion, you're sort of playing for around 100% return over the next 5 years. So you're not really talking about like a multi-bagger type of setup here. As I'm looking at this, just based on the current price, the significant price premium, could the stock continue to perform really well? Yeah, absolutely. I'm no question about this. And this is a framework. It could go way higher, way lower, but I'm just sort of saying, okay, what's a rational perspective to consider this? So once again, leave your feedback in the comments below. So then the next question is, well, can this 10x over, let's say, the next decade? And once again, using that same sort of framework, but stretching it out over 10 years, you're really playing, if you want to bet that this does a 10x in 10 years, you really need to be banking on the idea that this can grow at greater than 45% annualized this decade. And that's a really tough hurdle to hit. You're effectively talking about a business that could potentially be doing like $150 billion plus in revenue versus $3 billion last year. So that would be really tough to achieve over time. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, it's possible. I view this as it's very likely that Shopify is going to grow at a very good clip. They're taking share, they're beating out their competitors, they're constantly innovating, they've got this incredible, advantage from having this network effect with, all these apps and ecosystem partners. And so I'm penciling out over 10 years, and of course you could see a wide range and this could be wrong, but I'm penciling out effectively mid to low single digits versus, like around 20%, depending on what this picture looks like over the next decade. That said, look, you don't need to get a 10x in 10 years. That's the goal for a lot of folks looking for those just extreme outliers. I'm just saying at this price, it'll be really, really tough to deliver that. That said, look, getting a mid-teens to a 20% return for a decade, that would be a very satisfactory return. I haven't pulled the trigger yet on Shopify stock. Maybe I've just waited for a more compelling price. I'm going to continue to wait. We'll see what happens. I think I might be able to get a better valuation in the future. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Journey subscribers know that there are companies out there that are actually growing even faster that trade at better multiples. And so, for example, this past month, I called out a potential multi-bagger, a company trading not at 50 times sales like Shopify, but a company growing at 200 to 300% revenue growth. So not the 80% that you're seeing with Shopify, not the 50 times sales, but 4 times sales. Now, because it's gone up about 15-20% since I called it out, but at 4 times sales, and it's growing at like 100% organic growth. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, yeah, it's all about not only what are the fundamentals, but also trying to pay a sensible or fair valuation. And that's what I think I got with this potential multi-bagger. Check that out at unrivaledinvesting.com if you're interested. If this video talking about Shopify has been helpful for you, please make a point of hitting that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching.